Hello, world. Patricia, O'Connor, and Frida, Reba, Dorsey here. It's late afternoon, dusk, on our balcony, and it's about 7 o'clock. Pretty quiet out. Midweek. It was a rather hot day today. We watered early, and everybody did pretty well. Okay, and by hot day I mean we were in our 80s up here, maybe mid 80s, so it wasn't ungodly hot. Um, but now that it's late afternoon, it's gotten really nice and cool out, and I just thought it would be a good time to come out and show you what we look like after dark, so to speak, when our lights go down. And the temperatures have just dropped to from 80 all day, somewhere in the mid 80s to 70s. It's really pleasant here at the moment. This guy looks like it's ready for a little bit more, maybe a little bit more motion. This guy looks like she's ready for a little dog treat. New addition. Nothing really to write home about. This is a little azalea I drug home from work. We had an employee go home to their family's house to take care of us for a medical emergency, and in the interim, some trees in the greenhouse, or some plants in the greenhouse, didn't get watered, or didn't get known about, or something. And so when another employee, a friend of mine actually, who that I work with, saw these little azaleas, they were already in a bad way. So she defoliated all of their dried up stuff and watered them and took them out of the direct light and put them in triage. And I never gave azaleas the first thought, and I know a lot of people like azalea bonsais, and they even have their own bonsai soil recipe, and they have their own bonsai or they have their own azalea fertilizer and stuff. But I never really gave them. I never really saw any that just was like, wow, that azalea. When it comes to bonsai trees that bloom, I guess I like crepe myrtles. I have a weird love-hate with cherry trees. It's like I like cherry trees when they're blooming, and the rest of the year I tend to, the most of the ones I see, they look really pretty when they're blooming, but maybe they look pretty in their sticks, and so the rest of the time that wouldn't be all of that. And there are some really pretty rugged, aged looking. I think a lot of times as a Westerner, sometimes what I look at and think is maybe a beautiful cherry tree might be an apricot too. I think that's probably possible. But this is our little azalea. I looked at it as a defoliated tree with little green specks on it, and said, "Come on, little thing, you can do it. You can do it." And brought it home, not knowing the first thing about azaleas. And I'm as far as bonsais are concerned, I think this is a bark and a base, and there's base in there we don't even know about. So there's a lot of potential there. But the reason that other people like azaleas is those huge flowers. And I'm maybe I could grow to love it. I have no idea what kind of flowers that thing. When I first saw it, it didn't have a living leaf on it, so no clue what color that was last May or whenever it was it bloomed. Speaking of, this is a quick look at our trident maple. And if I look down there, I might see something, I might not. But the thing is, here's the thing. We did our graft on this right here. And sometimes when you start seeing this or seeing little people who do their projects and they have successful air layers that, 6 weeks or something like that. We've been a little over 6 weeks, but then I've done things that I thought might affect that, and sure enough they do. Like it had gotten overgrown, and I wondered if when I cut it back, if that would probably have an effect on. Actually, I kind of knew it would, because that is the amount of energy going from here out through the leaves was substantial, but it was also taking over the balcony and making it hard for me to find room for the other trees. So to the end that it even made me ill to do so, I brought it in and clipped it back. At that point, its water intake has pretty much halved, which would really slow this process down. So also something else I've kind of learned since then, I've been reading about it a little bit more as time goes by. I may have been a little premature on wanting to make sure this is good and moist. There's much a reason to want that to get dry. But here's the thing. The last time I pulled this back to make sure that I felt moisture in there, because that was what I was worried about. I was worried about it getting too dry. The other thing is you have to worry about it staying too wet. And now I have to also worry about this staying too wet, because I've gotten rid of so much foliage by clipping back 2/3 of the limbs on here. They were out there and they were out to here. And I clipped this thing back that far. But here's what. Our air layer is right here on the main trunk. There's no other passageway for anything to go. Our air layer hasn't failed until one of two things has happened. One, our air layer dies. That hadn't died. Or two, we give up. So it could be that it's taking longer. It could be that it's not going to happen until we intervene. And by intervene, I don't think giving up is what would be the next step. The next step, when I've decided that it's not just taking a long time, but maybe it's not going to happen, or maybe I would go and dig all that out and see that there are little roots in there. They're just taking a minute. Again, when push comes to shove, I'm not going to be the one to cut this guy loose at the first hint of roots. I want to see a lot of roots down there. So it's not like I'm looking once a week to see if there's roots yet. Is there roots yet? Is there roots yet? Because it's not even something that's going to concern me until I see this whole thing full. The other thing I might do is cover this in black, because to my way of thinking, I wanted to leave it kind of clear so I could see when there was roots, but that's also going to keep roots from being exposed to the surface because of the light. So I should at least cover that in a plastic bag. I guess I could do that. And the heat wouldn't hurt that either. I've heard people say they covered their air layers in black plastic. Just for the heat alone would help keep all of that going. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts there. If at some point I decide that it's likely not going to happen, my next move would be to undo this, to take it all down, to take the knife, recarve over the calloused edge that would have formed around where we did our cut, repack all of that with spackling, put some more hormone on it, and then go back with the whole thing and go again. That would be our move. When it comes to air layer, this isn't a couple of little sticks that I have on the balcony, and if they fail, then we'll just haul them out to the street. This is what I consider to be a fairly major project, and one that I hope to bring about some really positive change to this trident maple. And if it takes a little while, it takes a little while. If we undo it eventually and see that there's nothing whatsoever going on in there, then we'll scrape it back, put more hormone powder on there, put more sphagnum moss on there, and rewrap it and go again. Until either this dies or we decide to give up. And there's really no reason to give up. Sometimes they can just take longer than others. Person that I was watching and getting a lot of inspiration from was Gilles Bonsai. And he started off talking a lot about maples and air layering maples. And then later he mentioned that he found tridents to be the trickier maple, but that's okay. We're not scared, and we really weren't. But that's kind of what it looks like down there. If I wanted to shine a flashlight down there and get really critical, I may or may not see anything, but I may or may not be worried about it either. The main thing is the top of the tree is still flourishing. So far. Things are still happening above our air layer site. So that's kind of what's going on there. The other big changes that are going on with our trees is our ponderosa. We removed we removed all the wire from this guy here a couple of weeks ago, and I think you should be able to see now that the tips are starting to work their way back up skyward. I'm not seeing a whole lot of what looks like damage to any of them where they're getting burned or anything. They start looking kind of really frail and like beat up cat whiskers or something if they get sunburned in the wrong direction or something, which can happen. But it's nice to see that it looks to me like it's recovered somewhat. And also I had been keeping it rotated at first to keep it out of the direct sun, and then I introduced it to direct sun, but I've been keeping it out of the wind by keeping it behind the wall most of the time. And I think it's doing okay. We don't do anything else to this tree until November, and then we go through and pull off all of our green frog paper tape. There is our corcus. There is our cork. I mean, not our cork. There is our California coastal oak. There is the hollow feature that we worked on, and I put a route or two, and in the dark you won't even be able to see hardly that that cut paste, which is around there. But we opened up the hole as it existed, and it can seal back up however it'll grow naturally. As I stated before, I didn't want to try to replicate falsely the heart shape that was that I thought was really kind of precious, but what was really cool about it was natural, and I didn't want to do anything unnatural. Everybody else is looking really good. Here's a little quick look at our dawn redwood. It is just pushing out. I moved P out here to the rail. It's greening up and just doing. It looks like it's really liking it there. I think it's doing well. These little guys in the tray are all liking their position in the rail. Our cork bark Japanese black pine is really happy, as is our 20-year seed, as is our little ponderosas. And this is also a little quick look at our bald cypress trees. Everybody looks really really happy, including Frida and me, for that matter. We're pretty happy. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Tomorrow will be another day off. It'll be, I think, a little cooler tomorrow. We'll get out here and we'll do something on the balcony. I meant to get out here earlier, but it was so hot. I went, why even fight it? We'll make this something cool in the afternoon, and it was. I thought that was a really nice little break. I thought it was a nice way to introduce our azalea. I don't know. I don't even know what color that azalea is going to be, but I don't think I'm going to be that crazy about developing huge blooms over my show hen azalea bonsai. I like it over that trunk and that rough bark we have going. So I'll try to do. They don't roll over. I've learned that about them. Okay, now we're winding it up, and I've already launched into a little tribe about this azalea. But I think that'll be a cool looking. And it's an evergreen. So I suppose I didn't know it was an evergreen. Also, I thought I was going to put that in a glazed pot, but. Maybe not. Anyway, I appreciate you. Frida appreciates you, and thank you so much for watching. It's just so pretty out.